What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another World of Warcraft Dragonflight beta video. This is one I've really been waiting to do, and I know a lot of you have been waiting to see. In this video, I'm going to rank all the specializations based on how excited I am to play them. This is where you're going to get the current list of what I'm considering maining in Dragonflight and what I'm not interested in at all. Just note that this is just based on the current information I have. So I've looked at all the talent builds. I've done several different classes testing out in the open world. I've mainly been looking at these classes from the perspective of playing them solo, doing questing, leveling, although for a large number of them, even though I haven't done videos on the tanking and healing potential of those particular types of classes, I have looked through the talent trees and I have a pretty good idea of, kind of like what those builds are going to look like. So there is a little bit of that mixed in there. And this is obviously going to change. We're going to have more talent reworks and stuff that come before the expansion actually starts. So we will do this again and we will update it, I don't know, every month or so, probably up until expansion launch. And just kind of, yeah, there's stuff on here that I don't expect to change and some stuff that definitely could change. So we're going to get into this. But before we start, I wanted to remind everybody that we are trying to fund 6 months of ad-free content here on the channel for World of Warcraft Dragonflight. So if you're interested in trying to help us out, we're looking to create brand new beginner's guides for Dragonflight, UI and add-on videos, do live streams, and also provide you with supporting documentation and materials and resources. So if that's something that sounds exciting to you and you want to help bring that to everybody here on the channel, check the link in the description below for the Indiegogo campaign page where we are raising those funds for Dragonflight Season 1 here on the channel. We're over 2/3 of the way to our goal, so we're really close, and if you're able to help and would like to, it's much appreciated. All right, so let's get into it. We're going to switch over here, and we've got the list up, okay? So this is all the specializations for World of Warcraft Dragonflight. I will try to leave a link to this in the description as well, so you guys can use it if you want. I would definitely be interested in y'all sharing your list with me, potentially on a future live stream or something like that. So all right, we're gonna get into this. So I have these ranked. I am not ranking these by how good they are, okay? I really need to stress that. Where I put these specializations on this list does not mean that they are good or they are bad or they suck or they're great or anything. It's just how much do I enjoy them? How much am I looking forward to playing them? How excited about them am I? So we've got 6 different categories here. So we'll start at the bottom. So these are going to be the specializations I'm not interested in at all. I'm not interested in playing them solo. I'm not interested in their potential as a healer or a tank. I'm just like, I don't got time to play everything. I don't have time to play. What are we at now? 38 specializations or something ridiculous like that. I can't play them all, right? I play all the classes, but I can't play all the specializations. So some of them just go into this category because they're probably the bottom specialization on a class I'm not super excited to play anyway. So that's the very bottom category. The next one up is not enough info. Just in case I feel like there's a class that I'm like, you know what? I really don't know if I can put it somewhere yet because either I haven't gotten to play it enough or like the talent tree is just in a bad shape and we just need to put it in here and we'll hold off and save it for later. Then we got the playable but boring. So this is stuff that I like more than the not interested at all, but I also just think it's kind of like boring. Like if I had to play it, fine, but you know, I don't particularly want to. Whereas the not interested at all, the difference between these two is the not interested at all is if I had to play that specialization, I would just not play that class. Versus the playable but boring is if I had to play that specialization, I would play it. Right? But it would be boring. The solid, enjoyable alt just means, hey, I like this, but it's not elevated to the category of me being like super excited about it. The high priority alt is something that I'm really excited about. So you could basically look at high priority alt as this just being like the classes I'm excited about for Dragonflight. Anything that makes it into potential main, I'm like insanely excited for, like just ready to get in. I wish that it was live right now because I want to play it right now. I want to make my rotation helpers for it right now. Like that's how excited I am. So hopefully that kind of helps kind of break this down for you guys. So we're gonna get in, and I think we could go in alphabetical order, but I don't know. I think I just kind of want to skip around a bit and maybe get some of things out of the way. So let's start with Druid. So Feral Druid is getting a lot of changes that I need to look at. They just got a big talent tree update where they're focusing more on bleeds, and a lot of things have changed. Now, prior to this, looking at the talent tree and just my general feelings about Feral overall, I probably would have put them at playable but boring. But the bleeds, I think the changes to that are big enough that I'm going to have to put them in not enough info. I need to play through. And basically what I would say is that my prediction is that if it doesn't really change things up, Feral's going to end up in playable but boring for me. If the bleeds feel really good, then I'd probably move them up to like a solid, enjoyable alt. And if they feel bad, I would drop them down to not interested at all. I have zero expectations that Feral is going to move into high priority alt or potential main. Balanced Druid is one that I mained back in Burning Crusade, and I loved it at the time, but I really just don't care about the current balance mechanics and the iterations that we have with Balanced Druid. And it's crazy to me how much Blizzard has taken a class that I mained and loved and just turned it into something I am like super apathetic about. So I'm actually, as far as balance goes, it's playable but boring for me. Like if I had to play it, I would, but I wouldn't choose to. As far as Guardian Druid goes, I'm not interested at all. Guardian Druid to me is like one of the most boring tanks. That's not to say that it's a bad tank, but it's boring. And so I'm just not interested in playing a Guardian over any of the other tanks. I'm not interested in playing Guardian in open world content. I'd rather play Feral, or probably rather play Balance than play Guardian. So it's just going to go down in that category for me. And then Resto Druid is actually going to go in solid, enjoyable alt for me, because it has been a long time since I've done any serious healing on a Resto Druid, and so I have been wanting to get back into healing just in general, because I've been doing a lot of tanking and a lot of melee DPS, and so I have some curiosities peaked for ranged damage and also, more importantly, healing. And so I really do want to kind of, if I'm going to play Druid, I kind of want to see if I can do it through dungeons and healing. So that's where Druid is going to be. And you can see kind of overall the vibe for Druid is not super excited, right? Not totally just in the dumpster, but not insanely excited about it either. So next, let's get this one out of the way. All right, we're going to do Priest. So, Discipline Priest. I'm not interested at all. I know I just talked about how I wanted to get into healing and stuff like that. Priest has never been like the most interesting healer to me personally. I hate having to manage the atonement mechanic, and I'm honestly not super thrilled about anything that Discipline can do solo either. So I'm just really not interested in playing Discipline even a little bit. Holy, I have no idea. And I say I have no idea because I'm really not interested in playing Holy in single player content at all. And I don't think I want to heal with them either. Yeah. It's going to go not interested at all. I'm not interested in Holy Priest even a little bit. And then Shadow is going to go in playable but boring. So currently what Shadow does is better than what Shadow used to do, in my opinion. And if it gets some more work, I think it's good the way it is. I just really do not find, out of every single class in the game, Priest to me just has never, ever, as much as I try, has never been able to catch my attention. And so basically Shadow is the spec that I will use to make myself level Priest so that I can make guides and stuff for it if I need to. And that's pretty much it. Out of everything in Dragonflight, Shadow is the least exciting for me. Or sorry, Priest is the least exciting for me, period. So let's talk about... Let's talk about Mage. So, Arcane Mage is either not interesting at all or it's playable but boring for me. It's never been my favorite Mage spec. And I think that, I mean, it's playable but boring. If I had to play Arcane, I would be fine with it. But I would prefer to play either of the other Mage specs for sure. I think Frost falls into the category of solid, enjoyable alt for me. And then Fire also falls into the category of solid, enjoyable alt. I don't really see myself playing or maining Mage. I never have. I don't know that I ever will. But I enjoy Fire and Frost enough to enjoy playing Mage as a solid, like, alt. Like a second tier alt for me. Once I've kind of gotten the high priority ones done, I definitely will go in and play Fire Mage and Frost Mage. And I think that the talent builds and stuff, Fire is pretty insanely fun, I think, just as a spec to go out there and quest with solo right now in its current iteration. So I'd be totally fine with playing Fire. And I also think that Frost is got some cool stuff going on as well. And that's another one that I've kind of wanted to expand my play experience on. So that's where I would put Mage. So you can see for me, Mage is like pretty good in the middle. Out of all the classes we've talked about so far, like Druid, Priest, Mage is the highest on the list for me. Druid's in the middle and Priest is at the bottom. Okay, so let's talk about a melee class. Let's talk about Death Knight. So it's weird. I like Death Knight. I enjoy playing Death Knight. There's nothing about Death Knight that I really don't enjoy, but there's also nothing about Death Knight right now that I'm super excited for. Death Knight currently looks like Death Knight has looked like for like 17 expansion. No, that's how it feels. It feels like there's just nothing going on with Death Knight that really has me super excited. So I think every single specialization is gonna go into solid, enjoyable alts. I think. No, I think Blood's going to go into high priority alt because I do like Death Knight enough that I level it up like every single time. And most of the time I'm leveling it up as Blood because I just find Blood so easy to play, whether you want to tank or whether you want to go just do quests and stuff. You just pull half the map and then you nuke everything down and it's fun. So I think that, you know, I'm definitely going to level a Blood Death Knight before I level anything else on this list, most likely. Unless I want to currently, like if I need a healer, then maybe I would level the Resto Druid first based on what's currently up here on the chart. But outside of that, I mean, I would be leveling Blood Death Knight over everything else. And then I have zero problems with Frost and Unholy. So I think they're solid, enjoyable alts as well. So that's kind of where we're at. I would say Death Knight is on the top of the list so far from what we've put up here. All right, let's talk about Rogue. Let's talk Rogue. I'm not excited about Rogue either. Rogue is a solid, like, sort of feel-good class. There's been times... So, my relationship with Rogue is like this. It's very, like, in and out. Like some expansions I'm like, dude, I'm so into like playing rogue and just the high damage melee, you know, one shot kill kind of crazy stuff that rogue can do. And other expansions I'm just like, I'll level it. And that's, I feel like for Dragonflight, with everything else that's going on, like rogue hasn't shown me anything that makes me want to elevate it. So really, I don't think that, I think rogue is like very middle of the road for me. And I think that based on the current specializations, I've played a lot of outlaw, and I think at this point outlaw is just kind of boring for me. Subtlety, I really just don't like what subtlety does. Like I would put it in not interested at all at this point. With outlaws playable but boring. Like if I had to play outlaw rogue just to get it done, I would. And I think actually assassination has kind of gone up for me to where when I level my rogue, I'm probably going to level it assassination, and it's going to be kind of like a second tier alt for me. And just to clarify, I mean, like there's the mains that I like prioritize, leveling, gearing, everything else. There's the high priority alts that are right behind them, and then the second tier alts, these solid, enjoyable alts, are the ones that follow. And typically I do get all the way through the mains, first priority alts, second priority alts, and some of the like playable boring ones that don't make it into this category. I'll touch on those as well throughout an expansion. So that's where I put rogue. Pretty middle of the pack, probably a little bit below mage, but maybe on par, probably on par with druid, and better than priest. It's kind of where I think rogues are sitting. What next? What next? Oh, let's do hunter. Let's do hunter. So survival hunter is typically what I play, and I actually have a build that I really enjoy for survival hunter, but it's still going to be a solid, enjoyable alt, I think. Survival is probably the specialization I still like the most, but it is not being moved into a high priority by any means. I think Beast Mastery, even with the build that I have that I kind of like, I think it's playable but boring. Like if I had to play it, I could, and that'd be fine. And then Marksman, I think, is actually up there with the solid, enjoyable alt as well. So I think when I level my hunter, it's either going to be survival or marksmanship. And it could go either way, or maybe I'd switch back and forth between the two. So hunter is pretty much right up there with mage. A little behind Death Knight, but yeah, right up there with mage in terms of where it's kind of falling for the classes here. All right, we'll get this one out of the way because I know it should be pretty predictable, but we'll talk warrior, okay? So we'll go arms first. Arms for me is playable but boring. I almost never play arms, but that's because I like the other specializations so much. Prot warrior, it's up here with potential main. It's just going to be a main, you guys. Like I level my warrior every single expansion. It's usually the first thing I level. I normally level it as Fury and Prot, like a mix, and then a lot of times I just stick with Prot because I like being tanky and pulling all sorts of stuff. But this time there's actually a lot of interesting stuff going on with Fury, and so Fury is actually up here as I could see myself playing Fury instead of Prot at endgame, or you know, doing a mix of both. But the fact that it's just not totally dominated, like the fact that it's not like this, is kind of a big deal. So Prot Warrior and Fury Warrior are up there. It says potential main, but absolutely Warrior is going to be one of the things that I prioritize leveling, prioritize gearing, prioritize having ready to go for dungeons or whatever content it is that I need to do. So Warrior is way up there. Now, Demon Hunter, I have some opinions on Demon Hunter. I just recorded the videos for Demon Hunter, but their talent trees came out so late into the alpha beta that I haven't had enough time. I know they're going to make some big changes, so I'm going to put both of these in not enough info for right now, but I will tell you based on my impressions, if I had to choose right now, where they would go. So for me, Havoc would go into playable but boring. And the reason for that is like there's just not anything really new feeling going on in Havoc, I think. Or maybe I would bump it up into solid, enjoyable alt if I had to. And that's not hating on Demon Hunters. I think the current version of Demon Hunter is fun. But again, it's just one of those things where some classes have new stuff going on or exciting stuff going on. There's a brand new class to play. And like in all of that, if your class is just kind of doing what it's been doing, then it's not exciting to me, even if it still works and it's still good. So that's why I would say Havoc would either go playable but boring or solid, enjoyable alt. And it's the same thing with Vengeance. Vengeance has a lot going on. I think maybe they have some more interesting choices in tanking, but we'll have to see. Their talent tree just came out. I know there's going to be additional changes to it. And again, like this one would probably be playable but boring or solid, enjoyable alt at this point. But they're going in not enough info because the talent trees are going to change. I'm going to need to test them again and get more info to see where they really fall. Traditionally, Demon Hunter is a high priority alt or solid, enjoyable alt for me. So for me to be talking about them in the context of solid, enjoyable alt or playable but boring is not great. But we'll see where they actually end up eventually. All right, let's do Paladin. So Paladin is an interesting one here. They've made some changes. I'm assuming this is holy, and this is ret, and this is I don't actually know. We're gonna go holy, ret, and protection. I think. I don't know what the actual symbols are. So that's what I'm doing here, okay? So if you look at the picture and you're confused, you probably didn't hear this, so be confused. So actually, I mentioned that I was wanting to kind of get back into a little bit of healing and stuff, and Holy Paladin was one that I dabbled in for BFA. And also was kind of looking at for Shadowlands. It's one that, again, with the new talent trees, it looks like there's some interesting stuff you can do with the like melee thing. And, you know, I like that kind of close combat healing stuff. So I'm going to put them at solid, enjoyable alt, actually. I think along with Resto Druids, I would like to get more experience in, more practice in with modern day Holy Paladin healing and just see kind of what that's like, especially in dungeons and things of that nature. Ret actually has some pretty interesting stuff going on, I think, that can make it fun to play this time, depending on the talent trees. And it's enough for me to put it actually into solid, enjoyable alt. Like at this point, I feel like when I was leveling, I would want to level a portion of the time as Ret just to check it out and have fun. And then protection is a high priority alt for me. So Protection Paladin is just something I always like typically enjoy playing. They've got cool stuff. They've got the shields. We're getting the big, you know, throw your shields at everybody ability as a choice in the talent tree. And again, it's just a backup tank that I like to have on hand. And typically, you know, I'll solo play as protection most of the time, so it's kind of up there with blood. So you can see Paladin, weirdly enough, is kind of pretty high up on my list, but I would say that it's high up on the list because of curiosities, and that in practice I could see this moving pretty quickly down the tier list here if some of the things that I'm curious about don't really pan out. But as it currently stands, it's up there pretty much on par with Death Knight, which is, you know, for the Death Knight, I like it so much that even though nothing is really changing, it's still going to get some priority. Whereas with the Paladin, it's like, okay, I'm curious about enough new stuff that it moves it up into that sort of category. All right, if you can't tell, we're sort of narrowing it down here. We've got Evoker left, we've got Monk, Shaman, and Warlock left. So let's talk Warlock. So the current state of affliction, which I don't know which one is which. Demonology, destruction, affliction. The current state of affliction, the last time I played it, made it something I absolutely did. Like, there were bugs, there were all kinds of stuff. But that being said, I'm just not interested in playing affliction, like, at all, really. I'm not crazy about caster classes as mains in the first place. And so to have to play affliction, I would probably just not play Warlock. It would be super way back in the pack for me for anything that I'd like to play. Demonology was a specialization that I got into around BFA and did a little bit in Shadowlands. I find it enjoyable. The main reason I switched to Demonology is just because, you know, it's something I hadn't really played or hadn't really tried too much. And I felt like Destruction was really boring. It's typically what I play for Warlock, and that, like, just nothing was really going on with it. So I kind of was like, well, you know, I'm going to level Warlock. Let me do Demonology. And it turned out to be pretty fun. And I think I would actually put Demonology at a solid, enjoyable alt. Now, with the testing that I've been able to do for Destruction, I honestly thought that I was going to continue to be bored with Destruction. Destruction's a potential main, you guys. Like, this Destruction build that I put together and was able to test was really fun. Really fun. Lots of survivability, lots of just fireballs and chaos bolts and stuff going everywhere. And I was like, if I was ever going to play a caster main at this point in my WoW journey, I have played a balanced Druid main and I have played elemental Shaman main before. Those are the two casters I actually have mained, like, in raids and stuff before. If I was going to play one now, like what I played with Destruction Warlock would be it. Definitely was having a lot of fun on that. I haven't gotten to test it in the open world yet. I've just done the talent theory crafting build and also testing out on the target dummy, but it was cool. So I'm excited about that. Let's do Shaman. So Shaman is interesting because it's a class that I've always enjoyed playing. And so I actually have mained Elemental. I've played Elemental a lot. Elemental currently feels like Elemental, which felt like Elemental and felt like Elemental all the way back to like Warlords of Draenor, which is a very solid caster build that I have zero problems with, but also am bored with at this point in time. So, like, there's no way that I'm going to play Elemental when I could play Fire Mage or I could play Destruction Warlock. And it's not because Elemental's bad. It's just because I've played Elemental for years. And, you know, I want to try something else. So, Elemental goes there. Enhancement is going to be a solid but enjoyable alt. Kind of run into the same issue where Shaman's always just been a class that I play, like, period. I play it mainly because Elemental feels good and Enhancement is a melee build. And if you notice, pretty much anything that's melee ends up in the top 3 categories here, with some rare exceptions, very rare exceptions. But for the most part, it ends up in the top 3. And that includes Enhancement Shaman. Enhancement Shaman's got some cool stuff going on. I could potentially see this moving up to a high priority alt for me. But in its current state with the testing that I've done, I just think it's solid. It feels good to play. So same thing with Restoration Shaman. I'm going to put this one here in solid, enjoyable alt as well. I have actually done a little more healing on Resto Shaman than I have done on, like, recently on things like Resto Druid and Holy Paladin. To be clear, I have healed on, like, all these classes sporadically throughout the past 3 expansions. So it's not like I'm talking about like, oh, I haven't played these in years. In some healers, I actually have mained before. Like, I have mained Resto Druid as a healer before. I have mained Resto Shaman before. But it's just been a while, and healing just hasn't been a focus of mine since Warlords of Draenor, maybe, I think. So, you know, I'm wanting to get back into it. And so for me, Restoration Shaman is a solid, enjoyable alt. Like, I've done this before. I don't know how much different it's going to be from what I've already done, but I'm definitely curious to try it out. All right. So let's talk about the new classes. You guys get what's going on here? I'm holding on to Monk for the end. Let's talk about the brand new class, the Evoker. It looks like we have Devastation and we have Preservation. So Devastation, to me, is probably going to be a solid, enjoyable alt, because it looks like an interesting DPS class, but again, it's a ranged DPS class, which automatically puts it into a category lower than melee for me, just in general. It is a brand new class, so it's new, right? And it's bound to be fun. It doesn't have a lot of active abilities, and it feels like the talent tree to me offers diversity, but doesn't offer a lot of things that are exciting choices. I'm not sure. Like, sometimes I see talents in the tree and I start thinking like, oh, you could put this together and this together, and I get really excited about the potential. And it's not that that doesn't exist in the Devastator tree. It's just that I'm not excited about those combinations. And it may just be because I haven't played them as much as others, but I don't know. I feel like they have a similar problem to Demon Hunter, which is they don't have this rich history of previous tier set bonuses, talents, special expansion abilities, and all this stuff for the devs to pull from to make interesting choices on the tree. The devs are basically taking the smaller pool of what's there, trying to make it work and fluff it out a little bit. But based on what I saw for Demon Hunter, there's not a whole lot of effort into bringing them up to the level of interesting choices that the other classes have. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if I don't want to say they're being lazy, but I just think it's a lot more work and they're not doing it. And with Evoker, I kind of feel the same. Like, even after going through the whole talent tree, you know, you got like 6 abilities on your bar. It's like, okay. But that being said, I think it's still going to be fun. It's still going to be fun to check out, to try, to play. I just realistically can't put it up any higher. Now, Preservation, on the other hand, to me, is a high priority alt. So this is a brand new healer that I've never played before. During a time where I want to get back in and check out healing and healers and stuff like that. And on top of that, I find a lot of what they can do interesting. They have kind of like a healing vibe, but then they also have like a cool down damage reset sort of thing going on. There were some pretty cool flashy things you could do with the various abilities. And so for me, I'm actually really excited to check out the Preservation Evoker and try to play that in dungeons and heal with it and check it out. And honestly, I'm more excited to do that than I am to go out with the whole dragon breath, fire breathing devastation thing. So yeah, that's pretty much up there for me. So you can see Evoker, because it's new, basically, it's kind of high up there. It's only got the 2 specializations. I don't think I'm going to end up maining a Preservation Evoker. The potential is there, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I can't put it up to potential main, but it's definitely going to be something that I play pretty quickly after the things that I main. Along with Blood DK and Protection Paladin. So then we come to Monk, and I saved Monk for last for a reason. So, Brewmaster. All right, the Brewmaster tank is fine. I really don't like the brew mechanic. I like everything else about Brewmaster except brews. And so for me, I gotta put Brewmaster at a solid, enjoyable alt, because when it comes to open world content, I think they added in some stuff that makes for some pretty interesting builds. I think there's some really cool stuff in just the class tree that opens up a lot of possibilities for all 3 specializations, actually, and as a result, a Brewmaster gets some extra stuff there. So overall, I think for open world content, Brewmaster looks pretty playable, pretty enjoyable. Same thing for tanking, right? Typically, if I got to queue up as a tank, I'm going in as Protection Warrior. I'm pulling the Blood DK, the Prot Paladin, or something like that. And then maybe I follow up with like a Brewmaster, you know, if I'm wanting to get some levels on Monk or something. You know, it kind of goes in that order for me. So it's definitely not a top priority as a tank over Blood DK or Prot, Paladin or Warrior. But I'll still play it. I'll still take it in dungeons. I still find it to be pretty enjoyable. The brews aren't that bad, you know. Not my favorite thing, but they're not that bad. Windwalker. Windwalker is interesting because I really enjoy the playstyle. I just do. But it also doesn't feel like a whole lot has changed. So I think if a few things had changed to make it more exciting, I would actually be putting it in the high priority alt category because I enjoy playing it. And I may still put it in high priority alt category because, yeah, I'm going to level Windwalker before I level anything else, like specialization wise in the solid enjoyable alt category. Yeah, so I think it does have to go into high priority alt. So that's going to be one. I just like the whole not repeating your moves and doing these little combos and, you know, the punches and the kicks, and I don't know. I vibe with it, and I think it's a lot of fun. And so that brings me to the last specialization here, which is Mistweaver. So with the talent trees, they have made fist weaving a possibility on Mistweaver again. And I was so sad that I basically missed the boat on being able to legitimately play a healing monk as a fist weaver, that this was my like number one hope for all of the Dragonflight expansion, was that fist weaving Mistweaver monk would be a thing that was viable to do and not some goofy niche thing that you could kind of do if you had certain Torghast buffs and things like that. And they went all in, like with the class tree and the things that you could pick up in there to help yourself in open world content, with all the fist weaving stuff. Even looking at the changes they made to the talent trees here recently, you still do it, like absolutely. Fist weaving is 100% a thing, and I've been talking about wanting to heal, and guys, this is a potential main for me. Like, you gotta understand, like, I prefer melee over ranged in almost every single case. And so it's really easy for me to tank because the tanks are all melee, right? And then there's a lot of DPS classes that I play that are melee. And then occasionally you get some casters that sneak in there, and I enjoy playing them, you know, to a certain degree. And then the thing with the healers is, you know, just got to be in the mood to heal. But if we look at this, Mistweaver Monk is melee. And it heals. Like, it's full melee. It's not like Paladin where you're like proximity healing, and the closer you are and you do stuff, and it's just full blown punch the hell out of stuff and heal people in the process. And honestly, if we're looking at these for the potential mains, I know I'm going to level Warrior. I've said that a bunch of times. Destruction, Warlock, I have some really, really high hopes for. But I think there is a super high chance that I will main fist weaving Mistweaver Monk for Dragonlance. like just straight up. Like that'll be my main character that I'm trying to do. Anything beyond your typical questing, leveling, world quest kind of stuff with, like dungeons, raids, mythics, anything like that. That is what I am really leaning towards. So that's it. That's my tier list. Looking through this, you know, you always kind of rank these things and you're like, maybe I should make some adjustments here or there. The only one that I'm looking at, I keep looking at, I'm like, maybe I'm not being 100% honest with that, is like, maybe I want to move Enhancement Shaman up the high priority alt, because it's probably up there with Windwalker, but I don't think so. I think it's okay where it's at. So this is my list. As you can see, Warrior, Warlock, and Monk are the top 3 classes for me as far as Dragonflight goes right now, followed up by Blood Knight, Paladin, and Evoker. And then after that, the next tier down, we've got Druid, Monk, Rogue, Hunter, Shaman, and then everything else is gone from there. So literally the only class that's in the dumpster for me is Priest. Definitely need more info on the Demon Hunter, but the Demon Hunters, even if I don't rank them highly, they're not going to end up in the dumpster with the Priest. But yeah, they may be, you know, middle of the pack. So let me know what you guys think. I have talent videos out on all the different classes you guys can check out. If you go back and look at my past live streams, we do a lot of testing. We're going to do more testing coming up. So what do you think? What are you most excited about? Did I sway your opinion with, you know, anything I said here? Do you totally disagree with me? What do you think about the potential here of me maining Fist Weaving Mistweaver Monk? Like, is that something you'd be excited to see? Just let me know. So don't forget, you guys, before we leave here, we are trying to raise funds for 6 months of ad-free content here on the channel, including new beginners guides for Dragonflight, as well as UI add-on videos, live streams, and supporting resources, materials, and documentation for all of that. So if you want to help out and bring that content to everybody, check the link in the description below for the Indiegogo campaign for Dragonflight Season 1 here on the channel. Again, let me know, what are your potential mains for Dragonflights, and is anything totally in the dumpster for you? I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching it, and I'll see you on the next one.